It was actually my birthday. It was the day I flew over to Russia. And when I first got there, I just realized that the country was way different than I had imagined it would be. It was really hot in the summer, really cold in the winter. It was a lot like Utah, just a little bit more extreme. So that was interesting. I hadn't anticipated that. You always hear about the cold. It's actually really, really hot in the summer. And I was in the southernmost portion of Russia, so they called it the breadbasket. And there was actually, extremely luscious, even tropical foresty at times. So it was just really interesting getting out there and seeing it for what it was. The other thing that caught my eye immediately was walking down the street with my trainer, and all the houses have basically what we think of as sidewalks. The sidewalk has about a 10-foot wall next to it, and the front yard is behind that wall and then the house. So you can't see houses really. You just see streets and sidewalks most of the time. And then, so that was just interesting for me. It was the first thing I noticed was I couldn't see the houses. I could see these walls everywhere. So that was kind of funny. Geographically, it's in between the Black and Caspian Seas. And it is just north of Armenia and Georgia and Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all those stands. And then north of it's just more of Russia. So it's the southernmost kind of little, it's not a peninsula, it's huge, but it sticks out in between. It sticks out of the bottom of Russia. And it's really interesting because it's really Russian. There's a lot of Russians, but there's a lot of Muslims. Some of my cities were half or more population was Muslims, some of the cities that I served in. So that was really interesting, and there was a lot of Muslim culture and a lot of stuff there that I didn't at all expect going to Russia. So there's not a stake. There was not a stake when I was there. When I was there, there had previously been a district in the Rostov mission, but it was dissolved. And so there was not even a district when I was there. The mission president was the ecclesiastical leader of the entire area, 16 branches. And one small unit. And I actually had a really cool opportunity to be the third missionary ever in this one small unit branch. The first missionary got there about 3 months before I did, and then he went home, and I replaced him with the other original guy who was there. And there was about 3 people when we started. One was an African guy visiting Russia for school. 2 was a miracle mom and daughter. And then the first set of missionaries there had found a family, a mom and dad and 2 kids. And then by the time I got out there, we just met in a hotel room on Sundays. We rented it out, and there was about 6 of us in there, and we did sacrament on the little hotel conference table thing. And by the time I left my mission, there was about 25 people, and we had our own second floor of an office space all rented out for us all the time. Anyways, it was growing. It was really growing, actually. The baptisms in the mission in 2012 were like 27 baptisms that year. In 2013 was the year I got there. There was like 56 or 58. And then in 2014, there was like 79 baptisms. So, we were doubling our baptisms some years, or getting close. So it was really cool. It was growing a lot, but the church is really small. So no stake. The closest temple is Kyiv, Ukraine, and that's a bit of a journey for them, especially with the Ukraine-Russia conflict kind of stuff going on right now. It became really difficult for them to get there, so sometimes they go all the way north past Moscow to Helsinki. They would go to that temple. But yeah, it was really cool, and it's just a big area. We'd take trains, overnight buses for 13 hours to an area, or big area. Sometimes there was parts of the area that was like Arabian sand desert, and then there was parts that were like beach and jungle, and then there was parts that were just like super metropolitan city with 2 million people. So it was really interesting. The Russian people are probably some of the most family-oriented people, actually, that there are in terms of their traditions. They have grandmothers, great-grandmother lives with grandma, and who lives with mom, who lives with daughter. There's 4 generations in a single apartment sometimes. So it's really interesting. And so with that said, it's really hard for them to get over their traditions, because their traditions are strong-rooted. They love their grandmas, and they live with them still. And so the Russian Orthodox Church is the church in Russia. And as far as some Russians are concerned, that's the only church in the world. Because of their media hasn't necessarily taught them that there are other churches in the world. They think that's the only one they've ever heard of. So sometimes they're surprised to even hear that there's such a thing as another church. So that's a big roadblock, learning that there are other churches. And then even if they did believe it was true, going out of their way to break their family's tradition in front of their grandma and their mom and all the people who will be really upset with them for breaking their country and their family's tradition. So that's a huge one. Another big one actually in Russia was, it wasn't a huge stumbling block, but it was something we always had to go through with women, was abortion. In the 1900s, there was a lot of abortion in Russia. And so they always had to talk to mission presidents about that. And so that was another big thing that we had to deal with a lot. But it was cool because there were many, many, many women who got baptized who had previously had abortions, and they worked through that, or they repented of it, and it was fine. So it was really cool to see the atonement work in that area. I think the most important thing to focus on, and I think this probably for any missionary, I don't know that it just applies to Russia, I think you have to really love the people, and you have to really be their friends. You have to actually really go out of your way to just be their friends first. And the reason I say that is, to this day, and I've been home a year and a half now, which isn't that long, but I Skype several families from my mission on a monthly basis, and it's kind of sad because there's a lot of times they tell me, "Wow, you're the first missionary in forever who's actually kept contact with us. Like, everyone else just forgets about us." So, I mean, that's a little bit of follow-up afterwards, but I established a friendship there with them, and then, following through with it has actually really been cool, because I've had some great conversations with them as their life continues, and they have, fallings ways and coming backs, and I'm still a part of that, and it's really cool. So you have to be really involved with the people, and you have to really care about them and love them, and that change and that relationship shouldn't last 2 years or a year and a half. It should really last your life. I served from 2013 to 15, and I served first in the city of Krasnodar. Then I went to Astrakhan, which is that brand new city. It's as far south as you can go in Russia, just about, and it's mostly Muslims and some Russians. Then I served in Rostov, the center of the mission, and then I served in Volgograd. When I served in Rostov, I was in a position that I traveled a lot, and so I ended up traveling to pretty much all the cities of the mission a number of times. And so there was also Sochi, there was Stavropol, and there was a number of smaller areas within the cities of Rostov, Volgograd, and Krasnodar, because they're such big cities, millions of people. So there's multiple areas in there.